Welcome to Brand Ronald TV, baby. Now I tell you, if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button because today we are going to be reviewing the movie Venom. It's my first review, guys, so please help me out right here, people, because this is going to be an amazing review. I love the trailer, I love the scenes, I love everything. I love Tom Hardy. He just takes it way to another level, and I love it. So the trailer starts actually saying, "Back in San Francisco, people. Let there be carnage." Trailer kicks off with a gorgeous panoramic landscape of San Francisco over the Bay Bridge. So when you look at 2018's Venom, predominantly took place in the Californian city, and the sequel returns to the same locale, steering clear of the superhero heavy New York City. Eddie Brock's latest adventure was shot largely between Leavesden Studios in the UK and on location in San Francisco. And I have to say that it's just so amazing. I love the trailer, the scenes, the graphic, completely amazing. Just straight out of took it to a whole another level, people, a Kanye West type of level. So the first rule of Venom Club, people, the trailer shows rules: no eating people. We know Venom likes to eat people. I mean, he eats people. He basically needs to eat to survive. And that's what happens. The first rule says no eating people. So most roommate rules involve who does the washing up or whether unmarked fridge food is fair game. But Eddie Brock has somewhat lower expectations of his inner symbiote, that is Venom, who lives inside of him. He can only survive through by living inside of him. And following the end of the first movie, which I must say was actually really, really amazing, perfectly done, and I'm happy to see the sequel to the movie. Brock and Venom are coexisting in relative peace. I don't know about relative, but if somebody were to harm my food, I would definitely be losing my mind, guys. I'm telling you, the way Venom was actually cooking those food, although the sign is more or less played for laughs, it does demonstrate the growing bond of trust between the two and the softer Venom we'll be seeing in the sequel. And the Sakis confirms approximately 18 months have passed between films, people. 18 months. So the breakfast part of Eddie Brock with Venom is actually hilarious, I must say. Absolutely, completely hilarious. So it actually opens up with the comedy skit featuring Eddie Brock and his symbiote pal making breakfast. The pair previously agreed to coexist in secret, and their partnership appears to be go- going well. Hello, Lady Chain, we're not gonna eat you, right? Venom isn't going to eat you. Eddie's apartment has obviously seen better days because, guys, I mean, that's basically a man's apartment. That's how a man's apartment looks like. The room of littered with trash, like while animals roam freely. I love watching the chickens actually roam freely because I'm assuming that Venom actually eats the chickens instead of hitting humans. That's the number one rule of the house. Venom's dinner, perhaps, and it's not hard to see how the place got into such bad condition. Eddie suddenly allows Venom to flick around his tentacles, making breakfast, and the symbiote takes little care as he splats together some waffles, eggs, complete with shell, ketchup, saying yummy, yeah? And worst of all, mushrooms. Eddie is clearly in a place of grudging acceptance that this is how his life is now. I mean, when you look at him, when you look at his face, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the face of a guy who's actually lost his mind. I mean, he has voices, people talking in his head, and that voice is Venom. So in 2018, Venom made a lot of several key mistakes, not opening about the film's comedy and failing to properly dig into the day-to-day relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom. But this is actually rectified in this exact trailer, which we're seeing is happening, that a relationship is actually being built between Tom Hardy and Venom. And I love seeing it. It's actually hilarious, people. And if you haven't watched the trailer, then you better start watching it right now. So we see Eddie Brock sits down for breakfast. He's holding a card of some description, the one Venom squats tomato sauce all over ketchup and says yummy. Although the item is fairly nondescript initially, it's a close visual match for a similar sized card. Cletus Cassidy is later seen crawling on inside his cell. It seems the prisoner has yet again made contact with Brock and could be requesting an audience with the journalist following their meeting at the end of Venom. Mrs. Chen, don't you all love Mrs. Chen? Because I truly do love her. I mean, I love how she acts. I mean, she's basically asking for protection from Venom and Tom Hardy in exchange for some chocolates, it appears. And when she says that there are no chocolates, Venom goes ahead to say, "Let's eat Mrs. Chen." Like an argument ensues between Eddie and Venom, saying, "No, we are not gonna eat Mrs. Chen," and I'm actually loving it. I love the conversation between them both. So, as I said, the gags continue as Eddie heads to his local store, and the audience are reintroduced to Peggy Lou as local store owner Mrs. Chen. The big takeaway here, guys, is that Mrs. Chen's surprising casualness with Eddie Brock still being Venom, the journalist used his symbiote abilities to rescue the store from thugs in the original film. But even so, Mrs. Chen is remarkably friendly. Is very, very friendly to the man-eating extraterrestrial hiding inside Tom Hardy. I think that there's some sort of bond that's been created between Mrs. Chen, Venom, and Tom Hardy, and I'm loving it. So, Venom's father rather relaxed with her too, proving how far he's come since trying to invade Earth. This friendly neighborhood Venom acts perhaps isn't how most fans will know the character. And while comic books depictions certainly aren't this comedic, usually a goofy, jaunty Venom isn't entirely unheard of. So we've actually been there are homages paid to Stan Lee. May he rest in peace. A great guy, great man. I loved his cameo. So, like, we were introduced to a Stan Lee Easter egg, people, and which a Stanley Easter egg. So Stanley may sadly no longer be with us, but not even that can stand in the way of a good cameo. As Eddie Brock enters Macy's Chen's store, a magazine stand by the counter proudly displays an issue with the comic book legend on the front cover. In a neat touch, Venom's tentacle points to Stan Lee as Eddie walks past, and I love it. I love the homage, I love the respect for Stan Lee, and may he continue resting in peace. So we go back to it and we return to prison, and looking at this is like the prison of Azkaban or anything, or trying to escape from a prison. Like, this is actually a scene of called Return to Prison. So this particular location will be familiar to those who recall the post-credit scene from 2018's Venom, the prison that holds Cletus Cassidy. It will appear that over the past year and a half, Eddie Brock has developed somewhat of a bond with Cassidy, or perhaps should be the other way round. So Cletus Cassidy, Woody Harrelson, which I must say is actually a good, fantastic actor called Woody. He actually features in Now You See Me Too, and he did a great job in Now You See Me Too. So I'm happy to see him. I like the fact that he's goofy, he's funny, he's entertaining, and I can't wait to watch what he delivers to us, because by the looks of it, it's going to be amazing. People, I'm talking about amazing. So Woody Harrelson was first introduced as convicted serial killer Cletus Cassidy in 2018's Venom movie, requesting an interview with Eddie Brock and promising carnage, people. Carnage. Let the carnage begin upon his release. Catching up with the murderer, Cassidy has now wisely shaved his clown-like red mop and redecorated the inside of his cell with insane carvings. Cassidy seems transfixed with Eddie and sees parallels between them. It feels like the both of them are actually the same, which as things stands aren't completely obvious. Aronson characterization of Cassidy appears to. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Woody Harrelson was first introduced as convicted serial killer Cletus Cassidy in 2018's Venom movie. And I must say that I love him. I love him. I love him. I love his acting. I love the fact that he's goofy, he's funny, is amazing in Now You See Me Too, and by the looks of it, he's doing the exact same thing in this movie Venom, but even better, even better. Catching up with the murderer, Cassidy has now wisely shaved his clown-like red mob and redecorated the inside of his cell with insane carvings. Cassidy seems transfixed with Eddie and sees parallels between them, which, by the looks of it, they're not really the same. Which, as things stand, they aren't really completely obvious. Harrelson characterization of Cassidy appears somewhat less out there compared to his post-credits debut in Venom, when he spoke of sucking out eyeballs and other perfectly rational serial killer shtick. Like any serial killer worth his salt, Cletus Cassidy whiles away his incarceration by scrolling childlike images on his wall. Most of the images and phrases hold little bearing upon Marvel lore and merely hint at possible events in the character's past, with the exception of one intriguingly among the engravings of Cassidy's wall is the phrase, "The Phoenix will rise." Please, guys, please, 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 don't let this be another Dark Phoenix movie, okay? Please don't let this be another Dark Phoenix movie. So he says, "You and I are the same," with that goofy smile of his that only he can do. Across the course of the correspondence, Cletus Cassidy has evidently come to believe that he shares a certain kinship with Eddie Brock. At this point, Cassidy doesn't appear to possess a symbiote, so he can't be talking about their shared experience with alien possession, but rather their corresponding personalities, their self-centered natures, and their troubled upbringings. Although you'd be hard-pressed to find similarities between Brock and Cassidy on the surface, they might share more in common than Eddie would like to admit. But you know what? Cletus Cassidy, when he comes out and becomes like a little bit like Venom, somewhat different, completely red, and he looks way more scary and more dangerous than Venom. That's in my opinion. I mean, look at that face. The guy looks really, really scary. So Venom transformed. Aside from a few tentacles as making breakfast and waving at Mrs. Chen, the first glimpse at Tom Hardy's symbiote comes during an apparent street rescue. In a bad street shrouded with the dark of night, a fully transformed Venom grabs a man by the ankle and swings him perilously in the air, bearing a not inconsiderate set of fangs in front of the victim's face. Imagine that, those teeth in your face, people. Just imagine it. And obviously, he eats people. I don't know if it's gonna break that rule. We weren't shown that, but by the looks of it, it's going to have to break that rule. A woman dressed in yellow can be glimpsed briefly to the right of shot, and given the setting, it's logical to assume this scene depicts Eddie Brock stopping a crime in true vigilante style, explaining why he let the beast within run free. So Eddie investigates Cletus. We actually have a scene where he looks like he's investigating him. In a brief shot, Eddie Brock can be seen beavering away in the dark over a laptop and a stack of papers. Judging from the images detailed on this document, it seems Eddie is feverishly looking into Cletus Cassidy's gruesome crimes, hoping to uncover the victims yet to be found. Stephen Graham's Mulligan and Taxing. Our first introduction to a new character in Venom's world comes in the form of Mulligan, played by Stephen Graham. As indicated by the headline of the papers he is perusing, Mulligan is investigating the Cletus Cassidy case and attempting to uncover the victims' bodies that remain unaccounted for. Mulligan hopes that Eddie Brock can help loosen Cassidy's tongue. In the Marvel Comics, Mulligan is actually a host for the symbiote toxin, hinting towards a dark potential future for this new character. As we can see, we saw a clip of him almost being eaten by Venom. By the looks of it, Venom does not like this detective guy. An actor must have seen in something. Stephen Graham is known for the This Is England series, as well as The Irishman, Broadwalk Empire, and much, much more. The Daily Bugle's multiverse hints. So we see the the Daily Bug Easter egg in Venom, Let There Be Carnage trailer is fairly explicit, and many will pick up on the reference to Peter Parker's resident newspaper. However, there are two far more subtle hints in the Bugle that nod towards potential multiverse connections in Venom. Let There Be Carnage. Firstly, the Daily Bugle logo on the front of the newspaper is the exact same design in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. This could be another Easter egg referencing Venom's movie past, or part of the wider collaboration teased between Sony and Marvel Studios. Showing the trailer right down reveals a second multiverse clue in the Daily Bugle scene as Stephen Grammer's character angrily ruffles his newspaper. A few letters on the inside right hand page can be seen for the splittest of split seconds reading Anger's Night Anger's Nightmare, Avengers Nightmare, something like that. So, which is actually code for referencing of Avengers and Nightmare, suggesting that the version of Marvel's premier superhero team exists within Sony's world. This followed the previous links revealed in the Mobius trailer, which featured Michael Keaton's MCU Vulture. Fans will be hoping answers are forthcoming in Spider-Man's No Way Home. And we also are fortunate enough to see Michelle Williams returns. I'm really hoping that perhaps Tom Hardy can actually have like a love interest in this movie Venom. And she looks way hard to me to become a love interest. So I'm gonna keep my hopes up between these two. So her presence in the trailer is minimal, but the Venom Let There Be Carnage footage does reveal the return of Michelle Williams as Anne Wei Ying, her hotshot lawyer and Eddie's former girlfriend. This bar scene proves the pair remain in touch following their experiences in Venom, and it's good to see them respect social distancing guidelines. But in the very next moment, Omadi is storming out of what looks like the same drinking establishment, suggesting that catch-up perhaps did not go too well. Is there still hope for Eddie and Anne in the sequel? So we also move to another scene called Ravencroft. It looks like Arkham Asylum or something from the Batman movies or something. So I'm curious to watch this and understand this further. But Let There Be Carnage trailer officially introduces the Ravencroft Institute, Marvel's version of Arkham Asylum. Criminals are treated within these gothic walls, but often emerge much less stable than when they entered. As far as the Venom sequel is concerned, Ravencroft will act as a hub for the film's scientific experimentation, leading to at least one, probably two, possibly more human symbiote hosts. The footage teases that Ravencroft might potentially burn down during the course of Venom. Let there be carnage, but also like Arkham, destruction is merely a temporary setback as far as the institute is concerned. Ravenclaw doesn't just share Arkham Asylum's Tim Burton aesthetic and substandard health and safety. It also echoes the DC institution in terms of potentially introducing more supervillains into the franchise, baby. So Naomi Harris as Shriek. Whoa, I love Naomi Harris, especially from the Pirates of the Caribbean. She's an amazing actor. I loved a portrayal in Pirates of the Caribbean. So I'm curious to see how she's going to navigate this performance as Shake. And so there is a potential third symbiote into the mix in the name of Shriek, which is played by Naomi Harris. During the Ravencroft series, a young girl is seen trapped within a cuboid glass cell, seemingly rendered unconscious, played by Naomi Harris. This character is Frances Barrison, otherwise known as Shriek. In the Marvel comics, Shriek is Cassidy's lover and a nasty piece of work in her own right. Interestingly, her clouded eyes match those of Cassidy's as is given the lethal injection, suggesting she is too is inhabited by an alien parasite. In the Marvel comic books, Shriek does partner up with her boyfriend, Carnage symbiote, so it's entirely possible that the live action character will do the same at some point. So another Venom rescue, which we actually brought into the mix, where it showed that Venom climbing something which looks like a statue of like a unicorn or something. And a series of shots including more visual purposes than storyline hints. A fully transformed Venom scales a gothic building to do his best Batman impression. I love this. I love this, people. I love this. This could potentially be part of the Ravencroft Institute, and Brock is seen holding a pole weapon of some description. The images coincide with Woody Harrelson voiceover mentioning rescue, which could imply Brock is looking to break someone out of jail in this scene. So, a Spider-Man cameo? Fans were hoping for a Spider-Man cameo. Instead, they got a spider and a man. In this curious shot, an unseen character swats a spider flat in his hand. The man in question is very likely to be Cletus Cassidy, as the plain blue overalls and feverish writing are consistent with earlier trailer shots that show Harrison in full, while a decrepit prison cell is hardly the most surprising place to find a spider. The symbolic significance of this shot is lost on no one, least of all Andy Serkis. The image could be foreshadowing a future showdown between Cassidy and Peter Parker, although whether that's part of a genuine long-term plan for the Sony Marvel mashup or merely wishful thinking remains to be seen. We fans love to speculate, guys. We fans do love to speculate and give you some spoilers. So Cassidy's execution, which we are actually seeing, the centerpiece of the Venom is the public execution of Cletus Cassidy. The serial killer is wheeled into a chamber with a public viewing gallery, while crying onlookers, likely the families of Cassidy's victims, watch on with disgust. As the cocktail of deadly drugs enters Cassidy's body, his transformation into carnage begins. And that's when we see, let there be carnage. Let there be carnage, allowing him to break free of his bonds and most likely escape jail to cause carnage into this world. Who will rescue us? Who will save this world? Will Tom Hardy be the one to save this world? I'm curious to find out, people. Although Cassidy's timeline is pure conjecture at this point, it seems the prisoner is carnage free when first flirting with Eddie Brock from behind bars. The convict is then transferred to Ravencroft for his death sentence to be carried out. But someone has switched the lethal injection with the symbiote, turning Cassidy into carnage for the very first time. Although you can clearly see his hand turning all red and all that stuff, turning into full carnage, and I love it, and I love it, and I just can't wait to watch this on cinema, people. On the other hand, Cassidy could have been infected with the symbiote all along, and the lethal injection treatment triggered Carnage activation. So we also featured a burning building. So, and there are two potential options to what this scene could depict. On one hand, the fire could be happening in the present day at part of the Ravencroft Institute after Carnage's escape. The two figures seen walking free would then, in all likelihood, be Cassidy and Shriek. Alternatively, this would constitute part of Cletus Cassidy's flashback, delving into his traumatic childhood in which he certainly set a few fires. So we've also seen Venom sneak up on Mulligan, probably wanting to eat him, but we know the rules. I don't think he'll do it, but we'll have to wait and see. So every superhero movie trailer includes at least one scene that looks dramatic but ends up being of little importance in the finished film. The moment where Venom's head protrudes from Eddie Brock's body and looks to have a chunk out of Mulligan could well be that scene. Maybe Mulligan antagonizes Eddie, causing Venom to try his luck at breaking the no eating people rule. Either Stephen Graham's character is decapitated or Eddie Brock reigns in his symbiote before damage can be done. We are anticipating the latter. We also see Shriek's powers. I wonder what that will be. So she looks mostly like a banshee or something. In Banshee in Teen Wolf, where Scream actually was extremely very, very powerful. And I'm curious to find out what her powers is. So Frances Barrison may or may not become a symbiote in Venom, but the character is more commonly known as a mutant with the ability to manipulate sound, and this power is momentarily displayed in the trailer itself, as Shriek sends the contents of her presumably soundproof cell into a whirlwind. It'll be interesting to see how the sequel explains the origin of Shriek's abilities. Is she a rare example of a mutant in Sony's Spider-Man world, or is this the result of Ravencrow's symbiote experimentation? I'm picking the latter, since the creatures are sensitive to noise. Carnage destroys some vehicles, so it shows off the titular villain's wild capabilities as his long limbs and tendrils wreak havoc against local law enforcement who try to shoot at it. Although the footage is brief, it is a promising introduction to how vicious and powerful Carnage will be presented as in the upcoming sequel. Interestingly, some of these attacks appear to be happening outside of Ravencroft, potentially making the shows a part of Cassidy's escape. So he also featured a prison riot. With no context, a prison riot sneaks into the Venom trailer. It's not at least at all clear whether this is Cletus Cassidy's original abode or whether the riot takes place in Ravencroft. But in either case, the chaos could lead to Carnage escape. And finally, the Carnage has arrived. So finally, Venom Let There Be Carnage gives fans their first look at Carnage in action. Look at that, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I can't wait to see the battle, and it is magnificent. Say what you like about the sequel's comedic tone, but Carnage is visually spot on, full on gory glory, and more chaotically expansive in comparison to his darker colored cousin hiding inside Eddie Brock. Other shots revealed Carnage tendrils destroying vehicles and growing to enormous sizes, and two massive red hands gripping against a wall. It was vital that Venom Let There Be Carnage gets its villain design right, and that box can now officially be checked that this is right. And we have, after the trailer, actually been featured to an Eddie's chocolate order. After almost a minute without gags, Venom Let There Be Carnage switches back to comedic gear, returning to Mrs. Chen's convenience store. Hearing the news that his chocolate order hasn't been delivered on time, Eddie gets snappy, and Venom momentarily hopes he might be allowed a Mrs. Chen shaped snack before Eddie puts him right. The exchange confirms how Venom is constantly in need of checking from Eddie, and Chen reveals that Tom Hardy's character has been protecting her store from local hoodlums ever since his transformation. Stained carnage, people. Look at that. Look at that. Competing for the most attractive shot is in the Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer is this visual of the symbiote in front of a huge stained glass window. Aside from hyping the villain as some kind of evil deity, this image teases the fight between Venom and Carnage in a church or cathedral setting. And where churches or cathedrals can be found, so too can loud instruments, whether that be huge bells or grand organs, both potential weapons against sound sensitive symbiotes. So guys, I can't wait for this trailer. I cannot wait. So please hit the like, subscribe button. I cannot wait for this, and can't wait for Venom. So please, if you like this review, kindly hit the like and subscribe button. And thank you guys. See you later.